When there is no more room on the home console, the dead will walk the arcades.
Still alive?
Here are the 8 best zombie arcade games ranked. Number 8, The Walking Dead. If you need any more evidence of our pure scientific fact-based list we produce here, see no further than our first example, The Walking Dead. Sure, if this was a popularity contest, it'd be number 1 with whatever else is going on at the local barcade. But we have integrity here at Game Rant, and as we see it, The Walking Dead, it isn't a bad light gun shooter at all. In fact, it fully embraces the gimmick of the arcade, complete with a gigantic plastic crossbow as the game's controller. That sort of love is a rare thing these days. But everything else from this raw thrills game feels derivative of better games on our list, and seems to follow the modern arcade experience, more of a ride than a real game. Yeah, we said it. Number 7, Beastbusters. Back in the day, it appeared the arcade's goal was to give every grandmother and a senator within the vicinity a heart attack after watching 5 seconds of the attract screen. Exhibit A, Beastbusters, which as you can see involves some kind of zombie crime, though who exactly is having crime inflicted upon them is anyone's guess. You've got guns, the zombies have guns, there are dogs exploding everywhere, and in a bit of irony, you can see the words calm in the background. This game runs fast and loose with its monster logic. You'll fight gigantic bosses who transform for no real apparent reason except to be gross, oh, and to show you its weak point. But it's violent, it's scary, and man, you cannot take your eyes off it. Number 6, Carnival. Hey, as we've already explained, there's a lot to what makes a light gun game great, and no, it's not always going to be challenging gameplay. Carnival is an extremely silly, gory game that sees players travel all around a carnival to blast away the monsters that presumably would have done something bad. I don't know, these mostly look like people with jobs at a carnival, and it also looks like they're just defending themselves from a weirdo. The concept and the enemies, namely the evil Santa, Krampus, all seem to come from a child's imagination, violence included, and that's probably why a certain generation has fond memories of Carnival. Number 5, Zombie Revenge. I've never been quite clear on the title of this game. What are the zombies getting revenge on? But anyway, your humble narrator never played this game in the arcades, as it was pretty much on the Sega Dreamcast right afterwards, and that's a heck of a lot more practical than dumping 40 bucks in quarters on isometric top-down shooter in the arcades. The Dreamcast control system probably didn't do it much favors in terms of gameplay, as this is a very unique 3D beat-em-up with guns, but I think it would perform much better on modern consoles with 2 analog sticks. This made the list because of its bizarro story, seeing you make dark alliances with mysterious figures to battle dynamic creatures and creations. It's a bonkers gross game that is best played with 3 players. Besides, what other game has a guy fly through a window and tell you the building's about to explode and then immediately turn into a zombie? Narrative storytelling, people, at its finest. Number 4, The House of the Dead 4. Hey, we try and keep the lists interesting around here, so we had to pick between House of the Dead 3 or House of the Dead 4. And today we decided to take a look at House of the Dead 4 because its machine gun gameplay is actually pretty different for the series. The other games, some we'll see on this list, have a certain tempo to them, a certain rhythm, and House of the Dead 4 seems to turn that all the way up. We're talking a Sega light gun game here, so of course it plays great, and has some needlessly high production values and cutscenes, and enough offbeat lines of dialogue to make you suspect they might be in on the joke. There's really only one reason it's lower on the list, and that's because of the games that started the series might be a necessary play before getting into part 4. But if you played the other House of the Dead games, you need to check out House of the Dead 4. It's a great escalation of the formula. Number 3, House of the Dead. Back in the day, this light gun classic was rather audacious, taking all Sega had learned from their excellent Virtual Cop series and traded precision for trigger fingers, as these axe-wielding zombies will take far more bullets to down than a normal human being. Its 3D graphics were also excellent for the time, and honestly, I think they've aged pretty well thanks to the gothic horror art style. The story is complete nonsense, but in a way that makes it more like a nightmare. There's scientists running away from zombies with axes and leeches and living gargoyles. It's like all of the monster zeitgeist of the late 90s converged into one experience. Or going to a Hot Topic. The Saturn port was an admirable try for its day, but please track down one of these classic arcade cabs and enjoy some of the game's excellent voice acting. Number 2, Night Slashers. Data East is one of the unsung heroes of the 1990s arcade scene. Every time you'd think you played every single one of their bangers, you'd stumble right into another one. And such is the case with Night Slashers, which is when Data East looked at Final Fight and Castlevania and said, alright, I guess we're gonna do that then. The horror genre works well for beat-em-ups, as anyone who's played Splatterhouse will tell you, because it elevates the level of acceptable violence to complete brutality. That means zombies are vomiting, characters' heads explode, there are people with metal arms and knife-wielding scientists getting stomped quite literally into the ground. Hey, we know this is the black sheep on the list, you probably haven't played it, but this game rocks, except there was one other game we had to choose. Number 1, The House of the Dead 2. Sorry if that's too predictable, but anyone who has spent time in an arcade in the past 2 decades, deep down, knows there's no arcade zombie game quite as good as House of the Dead 2. A light gun game which refined the previous game using much more varied locations, smarter enemies, and boss battles that were a lot more interesting, such as one character being a weak point while the threatening heavy is invulnerable. Really clever game design. Beat for beat, there were always interesting challenges to overcome, and this was recognized further with its excellent Dreamcast port. Yeah, this is a light gun game so good that when it went home, its reputation grew. Sure, you can complain about the voice acting, I guess, if you hate fun, but we'll have none of that here. This is a Z-grade masterpiece, and the template for its even quirkier home follow-up, Typing of the Dead. So even if we want to have a surprise #1 pick, nope, can't do it. House of the Dead 2 is undeniable. And there you have it, the 8 best zombie arcade games ranked. How are you feeling? Ready to take on the undead? Sounds fun, but in the meantime, why don't you stick around here in Game Rant? We've got many more zombie lists that just won't stay down. And we'll see you soon.